How you doing? 'Tis myself. Obviously just back from auditioning for the next series of Peaky Blinders. Not. Doped up to the gills on painkillers. But I'm alright. I'm not too bad. I said I'd just make a very quick video because at least I could use YouTube to put it on Twitter instead of me typing another one of these updates. So there you go. If you've not been on Facebook or the Facebook page for the radio show, you probably won't know that I put a post up there yesterday explaining my absence for the last couple of days. I've had a wisdom tooth removed. There you go. With a very big root. It's nearly as big as Joe Root. Hey? And that wasn't very pleasant, but it's over now and it's out of the way. Complicated thing, really. I have a dentist, lovely bloke called Danny, who's based in Fallowfield, where I used to live. Private. He does private and NHS like everybody else. And went to see him on Tuesday, but he couldn't do anything about it. He had to schedule an AGP, which is an aerosol generating procedure, for the middle of December. This is all COVID safety bollocks that is impacting on dentists and their ability even to perform surgeries, to perform treatments on people. And because the aerosol generated procedure means that the dentist's office, the actual theatre, the surgery itself, needs to be cleaned properly after an aerosol generated procedure. And a certain amount of time has to be allowed between one AGP and another one. Dentists are backed up to their tits with patients. And he couldn't do anything for me on Tuesday other than the infected tooth, which is a wisdom tooth, other than give it put a bit of a temporary filling in there, which is useless. I went home in agony. I woke up in agony. And yesterday I was able to find an emergency dentist in Manchester, and a 24-hour emergency dentist, which wasn't cheap. But thank God the chap was able to see me and was able to remove the offending wisdom tooth, which wasn't pleasant. And it isn't pleasant now. But the pain today obviously pales by comparison to the pain that I've had for the last 10 or 11 days. So thanks be to Jesus and the baby Jesus and Mary and Holy St. Joseph and all the shamrocks. It's over. It's over. And I'm half high on painkillers today. So it's not the smartest thing in the world to do today, to do a radio show. So I won't be doing one today. I basically came on to tell you I won't be doing one today. I'll be doing one tomorrow, Friday. I will be on with you tomorrow, Friday, at 3 o'clock. Yeah. So there you are. That's about it, really. I've been keeping abreast of developments, as I'm sure you have as well. It's tyranny and it continues unchecked. It continues unabated and unchecked by the mainstream media. Mainstream media now has just gone full on rinse and repeat. We did have a moment, didn't we, a few weeks ago? We had a moment where through talk radio and Ms. Hartley Brewer and Mr. Mike Graham and Ian, whatever his surname is. Good guy. Ian Collins, that's the one. Good guy. Good presenters, these people. For a fleeting moment, these people were the front line in terms of the mainstream media, in at least asking questions of government about the necessity of the coronavirus measures. So you had talk radio, you had the Telegraph newspaper, you had the Daily Mail. That was it, really, in the mainstream media. That was it. The BBC, full-on propaganda, BBC Radio 4, BBC Radio 5 Live, Just propaganda. BBC gets government press releases. BBC rewrites said press releases for radio or for television and reads them out. Doesn't challenge at all. And that's where we are. It's getting worse. You may be aware, you may not be aware, the current Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, who's about this... No, I'm not going to swear. No, don't swear today. Hancock gave testimony to a parliamentary oversight committee. They don't call them that. The Health Select Committee, I think it was, on Tuesday, was it? And Hancock said something truly remarkable. I didn't see it coming. They've been saying for some time they would like people to understand that mass testing of the populace will be a regular thing in the future. Okay, we could have expected that. We'd be regularly tested all the time, and such a test, the results of said test, of such a test, would determine then what you do, where you go, whether you fly, whether you go to the football or whatever. Let's do something there. Right? Hancock said, there's a very British thing, said Matt Hancock. No, he was wrong. It's not a very British thing. It's a very human thing. Hancock said, when we are a bit under the weather, when we have a cold, when our noses are running, when we've got a sore throat, when we've got a blinding headache, when we're a bit fluey, we tend to present the stiff upper lip and we tend to get on with it, said Matt Hancock, which is what we do. Last week, I had a dreadful sore throat. Dreadful. I'm not somebody who lies under things. I'm a guy who's often worked, feeling very bad. Just get on with it. Work it out of your system. It's what we do, right? Hancock said on Tuesday, incredibly, we can't carry on like that. And he would like to see, in the very near future, people being tested regularly for anything, including the common cold. Can't have people going into work with a stiff upper lip when they're a bit under the weather. We can't have people getting on with it. Getting on with it has been our culture. Getting on with it isn't a good thing, said Matt Hancock. He said, and I don't jest here, that affects productivity. That affects other people. Other healthy people. In the workplace. In the office. You're turning up with your dirty germs. So we've got to test people in the future for the cold. For the flu. And for the head cold. And for the chest infection. And presumably prevent those people from going to work, or going to the cinema, or going to the football match, or to the disco. Presumably. Why else would you suggest it? Testing for everything and anything. Well, presumably because said test results can be very quickly uploaded to one's digital health passport. And that's where we're going. Oh, I've been in agony, but I've been following it and listening to it and reading it. Read the Times today if you get a chance. If you subscribe, if you buy it. Read the Telegraph. Read the Guardian. It's all there. It's all there. This dystopian nutcase lunatic asylum that's being rolled out with little or no opposition to it, as far as I can see. I want to give a big shout out to Dr. Vernon Coleman, by the way. What a legend. I've grown to love that man, which is saying a lot for me, because I don't tend to get too close to my contributors, especially my regular contributors, because you need to leave a bit of room where you can kick the balls out of them, if needs be. leave yourself a bit of wriggle room, that if you do have to have a right go at them, that you can do so. That's how it works generally. But no, I love the man. He's been very good to me, and I've not met him, but I see him as a friend. I'm in regular contact with him through email, and he's been a real rock, really, in this nightmare. If you haven't checked him out already, brandnewtube.com, Vernon Coleman, look him up. They're deleting his YouTube videos at a rate of knots, even though he hasn't been uploading there for some time. Go to vernoncoleman.com, read his books. It's a great guy. And when I was shockingly sick with the throat last week and broadcasting, he was very good with information and advice around what I should be getting from my doctor and all the rest of it. So great guy. Can't speak highly enough of him, really. So the thing to watch out for now in the next couple of weeks is, as they jump up and down for joy because they've got vaccines, that the vaccine companies tell them are very safe and very effective. Shock horror, stop the presses. Vaccine manufacturing company says that their vaccine is safe and works for loads of people. Well, you could have knocked me down with a feather. They're going after people, asking questions about vaccines. And they're using very extreme examples, because there are some lunatics out there. There are some nutcases out there. God love them. They're our fellow men and our fellow women, our fellow human beings, so I love them anyway. But there's some loonies out there who make some unsubstantiated claims about vaccines. And it isn't helpful. It's not helpful, certainly not now, to the rather more learned men and women who are asking some very serious questions about the efficacy and the safety of vaccines. Because there is a lot of serious questions around vaccine safety and efficacy, not just the COVID vaccines, but any vaccine that's been rolled out in the last 5 to 10 to 15 years. I wouldn't take a vaccine for anything, personally. So they're using some extreme examples to demand the punishment of people who put out misinformation about vaccines. And they're doing that to basically, I've said this before, one big loud fart in a room covers any number of minor emissions. And this is their approach to dealing with legitimate questions over vaccine safety and efficacy. One big huge fart. Point at one or two nutcases who talk about microchips and scream from the rooftops about these things. That the COVID vaccine will have microchips in it. Now stop shouting at me. I know patents exist to distribute nanotechnology and microchip technology into the body. I know this. I've seen the patents. I don't dismiss that. I've talked about it on the show. But there's no evidence that these shitty COVID vaccines, which I wouldn't touch with a barge pole, and I would urge you not to touch either. No, I wouldn't. I would not. That's outrageous. I'm not a doctor. I would urge you to think very hard about it. Look at it very carefully before you take it. Look at the track record of these companies. That's what I would say. I wouldn't advise you to do or not to do anything. I would advise you nothing. You do your own reading. You do your own, I fucking hate to say research. Do your own investigation. Make your own mind up. Don't listen to me. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not a specialist in diseases. I'm a journalist. And I've done my own background on vaccines and the companies that are selling them. And I've decided that I wouldn't touch the COVID vaccine, regardless of the social consequences for me and for my missus. I ain't fucking having it. End of story. So they're using people who are making claims that the COVID mRNA vaccines are microchip distribution units. And there's no evidence to support that, by the way. Again, don't fucking shout at me. I've listened to those who have talked about the technology, the patents that already exist. It's all been covered on the Richie Allen Radio Show, which covers everything and leaves nothing out. But there's no evidence that these vaccines are vehicles for microchipping people. None that I've seen. If I see any evidence that these vaccines, Pfizer and Moderna and Oxford, if I see any evidence that these vaccines contain within them nano microchip technology, I will scream from the fucking rooftops. But I haven't. And what the establishment media is doing is using the example of those who scream that these vaccines are full of microchips put there by Bill Gates to drown out the more moderate voices. The aforementioned Vernon Coleman and others, Dr. Vernon Coleman, who are saying, Jesus, this mRNA technology is brand new. How can they know it's safe? Why do we need it anyway? COVID is no worse than seasonal flu. 99.7% of people who get it will survive it. And what about these companies' track record anyway? What about swine flu? What about narcolepsy? These are very good questions. But the media is ignoring that by focusing on the people making claims about microchips in this new COVID vaccine, for which there isn't any hard evidence. If there was, I'd be screaming it from the rooftops. And that's where we are, and you've got to watch that very carefully over the next few weeks. Voices being silenced. Men and women who have qualifications, who are entitled to speak about vaccine efficacy and safety, being drowned out by those who make crazy claims, which might not be so crazy in terms of we know the technology exists and we know the patents exist, and I'm well aware of all that. But at this juncture, there isn't any evidence that the new Pfizer Moderna vaccines contain the microchip and all the rest of it. So what I'm saying, but I'm happy to talk about that with people. That's what the Richie Allen Radio Show is there for. That's why it exists. So look, I'm a bit groggy and a bit tired and a bit sore. So I'm going to be basically spending the rest of the afternoon watching snooker on the sofa, dozing off. I said I'd come on here and do this quick update and then piss off and leave you alone to the rest of your Thursday. I will be with you tomorrow, Friday, at 3 o'clock UK time, where I will have a look back on the week's biggest stories. I'll have a few tunes, and I promise you there'll be a few laughs. Okay? Until then, thanks for your patience, and thanks for putting up with me. I know you missed the programme and it's not on. I don't do well with that. I'm a fairly private, fairly quiet guy when I'm not on air. I don't take myself too seriously. I never have done. And I don't take what I do too seriously. But I get an avalanche of emails from people, particularly during the COVID times, telling me how important it is that they have the radio show to listen to on a daily basis. And I don't do well with that. It's not an easy thing to hear. But I'm coming to terms with it. And I understand where you're coming from. So I understand when you get a bit vexed when you don't have your radio show to listen to. And it is your radio show. It always was and it always will be. And I'm not going anywhere. I'll be back with you tomorrow at 3. I'll have a good weekend's rest then. And on Monday, we're back to normal with Monday to Thursday, 5 o'clock, Friday at 3. So enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Thanks for listening to this nonsense. I'm going to go and watch some snooker now. and sleep a bit. I'm knackered. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.